Hi guys, in this video we're going to look into control curves and how we add these. So you have seen control curves and used control curves in many of the rigs that we've used in class, and it's kind of the handles that are attached. So people don't tend to animate the bones themselves. You can do, there is nothing wrong with doing that, but it can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. So people make these kind of control curves. So we make them by going up to create and NURBS primitives, and I'm just going to start with a circle. The circle is the easiest one to create. If I hold right click, I can go to control vertex, and I can now start to change the shape of this one to fit whatever shape I want it to be, or wherever I need to fit it in, really, so I can maybe differentiate it from other parts of the mesh. So we could make it just a little bit wobbly, maybe. For now, there we go. Could maybe hook that way up at the front. Okay, oops. Okay, and drag that down there. So now I've got this sort of control curve in the center there. I could hold D to move the pivot point of this to there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go show and turn the polygons off. I'm going to hold V to snap it perfectly to the hip part there. Let's go to show polygons, and I can, oh, that's massive, so we can just scale that down there. Okay, great. So this could be our hip controller that we've made here. I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to freeze everything, so freeze all. So everything's 0 and 1, so that means whenever I move it somewhere, I can always just reset it back to 0 really easily. So now I need to actually attach it to our hips. So I select this, and then I would hold shift and select the bone I want to attach it to. Make sure I am in rigging and go into constrain and parent. So what a constraint is it's going to kind of link two things together. A parent constraint is going to behave like a normal parent without physically attaching them. If I click on the options box, maintain offset is going to maintain any offset, rather than if you had that ticked off, it would physically snap to the pivot point of the other one. Now, because we've snapped them, it wouldn't make too much difference here, but sometimes you don't want to do that. And it's then going to constrain all of the translate, so it's going to move exactly where this control moves, and it's going to rotate exactly as this one does as well. So if we click add there, now whenever I move this, it's going to move my whole skeleton, and whenever I rotate it, it rotates it as well, because it's constraining to that part there. Okay, I'm just going to quickly just bind this as well, just so it's attached. Okay, great. So now we can add a few more of these, so we could essentially do one for every single bone or every single thing we need to. So if you made an IK handle like we did in the last video, you could constrain the IK handle to 1, so that when you move the handle, it moves that. We also made that locator, which is also exactly like one of these control parts here as well. So if we just create NURBS circle, and let's just snap this in place. Let's turn off those polygons again quickly, snap it in place there. Let's duplicate it, snap it in place there, bring those polygons back. Great. So I could now go to control vertex, and I could just pull this down slightly. Might make it easier to select when certain things are happening. So I'm just going to pull that back, which means I can select that part a little bit easier. Just going to pull that up there. Okay, this is literally purely aesthetic, does not make any difference at all. The only thing that's important is that pivot point, which we've snapped there. So again, we can select this, select the bone, and then constrain parent. We can select this, constrain. There are also some other constraints in here that you can use. A point constraint is like a parent but without rotation, and an orient constraint is like a parent but without translation, and a scale, again, the same. It's going to constrain the scale of whatever it is there. Aim's a little bit more complex, so I'm not going to go over that in this video. But yeah, I'm going to parent that one there. So now whenever I rotate these parts, it is going to rotate them here. Now you notice when I do this one, okay, all it's doing is rotating the middle of this mesh here. And the reason it's not moving everything is because I've constrained the top to this part here. So I'm actually limiting it. So what I might want to do is I've got these here and I've been using parent constraints. I could actually set up a hierarchy. So I could start parenting these things together so that now whenever I move this one, it's also going to move all those other constraints. So if I rotate there, you can see it's moving all of my separate parts with them. Okay, if they were not parented, and we tried that, you can see it's now just moving the bottom of the legs there. So your control curves want to sort of mirror what's happening with your hierarchy. So again, here I want the top of my hierarchy to move with it, so I can wiggle my guy here. And again, this just makes it a little bit easier to select the joints rather than having to go and get that thing in there. You also might not have X-ray on, so you might not be able to see them. So you can then do this and kind of tidy things up a little bit. And this is now my my controls that I can start working with here. Okay, so you can use this for anything. Again, like I said, if you had that IK handle set up in the leg, you would be able to parent the actual IK handle to the control curve there so that it would move independently. People like to create master controls as well, so you could have like maybe like a big one on the ground that everything gets parented to, so that it's like the master, so you can kind of change the scale of everything there. But again, please remember to just freeze everything so that everything's at 1 there. Okay, so in this video we've looked at control curves and how we attach these to our model. Just makes it a little bit easier when we come to animate and select the parts we want to select. Okay, thank you very much.